Hi, my name's Cheese, and welcome to another Fossil Sweeper Progress Update video. If you haven't heard of the project before, you can find an overview here, but the TLDR is, it's Minesweeper, but you're digging up fossils, and you get to build skeletons out of the stuff you find. For the past month or so, I've been getting back up to speed after a couple of slow months. Most of my attention has gone towards the museum phase, but I have also found time to work on some phase transitions, do some concept art, and do some initial work on the as-yet unimplemented research phase. I've recently started learning to use Krita, and I've sketched a few little studies exploring what dig backgrounds might need to convey a sense of location. I'm not certain what the final biome count will look like, but it has been helpful to think about what layers of abstraction will give flexibility to communicate different spaces while reusing common elements. For a while, I've been thinking about how players ease into the assembly phase. I recently added a gameplay setting that randomizes initially unlocked fossil chunks for each new skeleton, which shakes things up in potentially interesting ways. I think I'll wait until I'm close to having the final skeletons and poses locked in before I make a decision on that, but I'm expecting that I'll likely make it the default and tweak the assembly chunk queue order to front-load fossils that can be placed. Since that means that skeletons don't always grow upwards from the feet, which is where the scene's lighting is focused, the placement silhouettes can be a little difficult to read sometimes. So I added an interface setting to allow the placement silhouette colour to be customised with the colour picker I mentioned in the last video. Needing a small scope work item to fill in some time at the end of a dev stream, I gave some attention to the transition between map and museum phases, adding a camera movement pulling out from the globe before moving toward the office door and heading into the museum. Eventually the player's avatar will walk to the door as well, and so on, but for now it's nice to have something that covers the cut and any loading time. I've also thrown the same animation onto the map to assembly transition, just to have something there. While meeting with Peter to catch up after the New Year period, I brought up that even though the map phase music has been formative for the project and has helped us identify and navigate the game's tone, it's a little too high energy to comfortably transition to the assembly, dig, and museum phase music. I was initially intending to raise this as something for us to talk about over the coming months, but while we were chatting, Peter put together a rough version of the map music with a lower energy arrangement. It works really well and allows for some tuned percussion that's heard in the dig and assembly phases to be a little bit more prominent in the map phase, which I'm super into. We're keeping the original music as the main menu music and cross-fading to the map version so that they stay in sync. I'm really enjoying what this does in terms of lowering the energy while building anticipation for what's to come. Continuing to prepare the temp museum for a TTS pass, I added an outline on objects that are within interaction range or have the mouse hovering over them. It'll help me verify whether or not the things being described by text-to-speech are correct, but it also makes the museum a little bit more easy and comfortable to navigate. I think I'll tweak it a bit, but for now I'm using the approach described in this recent Leafshade interactive dev blog and in the Godot's docs page on custom post-processing. I reworked the museum map to allow it to resize with window res changes and clip off-page rooms when panning, and along with that some off-screen indicators. It's still a little temporary, but this makes it easier to do some of the later stuff I have planned, and it's nice to not be able to get accidentally lost when panning too far. I made a leaflet holder to put next to each museum room door that will bring up the museum map when interacted with. I also added something that can be interacted with to bring up a first pass on some lighting controls that I've been working on. You can adjust the intensity of the environmental fill light, as well as any spotlights, and the fill shadow that can be used to keep things feeling a little less flat and more readable when there are no spotlights around. Last but not least, I've also been doing a bunch of tweaks and refactors ahead of migrating from the temp museum to a less temporary implementation. Other bits and pieces I've done over the past month include some improvements to the color picker and color related settings management, fixing some bugs in my layered music handler to make the main menu to map phase transition behave a little bit better, adding a visual crossfade between the main menu and the map phase, and doing some initial work on the research phase. Getting the research phase functional will mean that every gameplay phase is present in the game and closes the last remaining gameplay loop. There will be plenty of work left to do beyond that point, but it's still a pretty significant milestone and I'm pretty excited to be on the cusp of it. A very big thank you to the supporters going by on screen at the moment. Their support has helped me eat while making this game, and I am so very appreciative. A huge thanks also to Screen Tasmania, who supported this project with a small grant. Anyway, that's about it for today. If you'd like to keep track of development or try the playable prototype, there are links in the description. And if you're super keen to try out what we talked about here today, I make early test builds available to my supporters on Patreon. Thanks for watching, and goodbye!